And just like that, we are back with chapter 27 of The Universe According to Mugsy, where we talk current events, culture, and consciousness, not necessarily in that order. Oh, I'm so excited to be talking to you guys today. What day is it? It is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, and I'm excited to be checking in with you guys. I mean, the world's on notice. The world is fucking on notice. What? Oh, where do we start with this? Where do we start with this conversation today? We're definitely going to start talking about, the consciousness, because until you guys start writing in and asking some questions or following up or providing some fucking anecdotes, I don't know where this conversation's going to go. And I like that. And I like that. So you guys are just going to get insight into what's going on with me, what I'm thinking of, what's playing a role in my life. And I believe that is going to help you deal with whatever you're dealing with until you go to patreon.com/Mugsy the creator. You sign up for $3, $6, or $9 a month. And then you start hitting me with some questions. All right, guys? That's it. That's all the plugs. There is no more fucking advertising. Advertising, it's in the way of conversation. It also confuses the listener because you don't understand where the incentives are for the person producing the content. So I aligned all of my incentives with you. And that's why I'm really fucking good at this, because I understand the fucking now better than anybody else out there. And I understood the seasons this past February, this past January, December, whenever it was I started this goddamn podcast. Oh, because April 1st was the end of quarter one. All right? Anybody that works in finance understands that the year is divided into 4 quarters, and that is how progress is measured. If you hear people referring to quarters, you can probably guess they're in some sort of business, financial industry where metrics are measured quarterly. But that's not really, that's the matrix talking, right? Because the only thing that really matters is seasons. To the universe, seasons are all that matter. And that was winter, okay? That was the time to plant some motherfucking seeds and keep working on whatever the fuck it is you were doing. So that in the spring you can water those fucking seeds and you can watch this plant grow, and baby, we are taking off. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. We're taking off because I want to measure my progress. And it's real uncomfortable listening to yourself talk. I don't like it any more than the next guy. But that's what you got to do. I had to go back and start listening to this podcast back over from chapter 1, the preface, even before chapter 1. And I had to start listening to myself talk, see where I sounded like shit, see how the listening experience was. And motherfucker, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was fucking a hell of a lot better. And I'm just going to keep getting better with fucking time because I have 60,000 hours of fucking listening to experience for this shit. God knows how long I fucking thought about it. So you guys get the benefit of all of that for $3, $6, or $9 a month. But what's made me good about understanding the fucking now is being able to see through the shit almost immediately, understanding what business you're in. One of the first real quote unquote jobs that I had out of college was managing private investigators. Now, technically, these people worked full time, but these cases that you needed them to work across the country, private investigation, follow some guy around type shit, make sure he's not doing anything he shouldn't be. Could be 3 hours from their house before they start their 8-hour day. So almost immediately, I recognized that I was not in the fucking private investigation business. I wasn't in the insurance business. I was in the goddamn relationship business. Because if I couldn't get these guys across the country to drive out to these remote locations and follow these schmucks around, then I was useless in that fucking office. Right? So I managed those relationships with my private investigators who were doing the work for me. And in order to gain some insight into what it was like to drive 3 hours, then sit in a car for an 8-hour day, I had to go out on the road and do it myself with those private investigators. Otherwise, how the fuck could I manage them? That was not something my company put me through. That was something I went out and did of my own fucking volition because I wanted to be really fucking good at that job that paid me $32,000 a year out of college. $32,000 a year. They bought my entire fucking consciousness. I was thinking about how to be great at that job for a long fucking time. And it didn't take me that fucking long to figure out how to do it. All right. So the podcasting game is the honesty game. That's all that really fucking matters, right? Are you being entertained? Sure. But do you believe the person you are spending time with is leading you in the right direction or the wrong direction? Because it was my understanding of the present and the recognition that all of the influencers out there today were leading their fans down a horrible fucking path. All right. And I couldn't let all of you guys go down that path. So what did I do? I had to become a fucking influencer. I don't want to do this shit. I told you. All right. I'll build a house. I'll fucking become a piano player, a guitar player, a stand-up comic, a fucking public speaker. I can do anything I fucking want. All right? That's the difference between me and everybody out there. What's holding you back? What is it? Tell me. Come on, explain it to me. You think I haven't fucking dealt with it? If you guys knew how arrogant I truly was and how little resources I have at my disposal right this very fucking moment, money, a place to fucking live, who gives a shit? This is the most important fucking thing. This is it. This is the conversation. This is letting somebody inside your goddamn brain to try and help you figure out your goddamn life. This is honesty. It's probably a little bit of therapy. And I hope you get a fucking laugh or two out of it, but I can't control that. I can't. All I can control is fucking doing my best to explain this shit to you from as many different angles as I possibly can, so that you will receive the message and you will understand that your perspective on the world is very goddamn important. And you need to get to know yourself to understand why that perspective is so important. As I'm listening back to this podcast and I'm finding other creators out there on the internet that seem to be doing similar things to what I'm doing, I'm on my own journey of self-discovery. Some people call themselves channelers. Some people call themselves fucking interdimensional beings. I don't know what the fuck I am. All right. But like we've said time and time again, nothing ever leaves this world. It just changes shape and form. And if we take a look at our history back in the past 200,000 years, it's how long humans have been around, in case you didn't know. We see that shamans and magicians have always been a part of the culture, and they are today. So where are they? Where are these fucking shamans? Where are these people that seemingly rise above all of the madness happening around them? I don't know. I don't know, but if you think you fucking found one, you better hang on to it. And I think that's what Rogan was for me for a long time. He was my shaman. He was the only one that was as curious about the world as I was. So I allowed him into my consciousness. I allowed him into my mind to see what it was like to live with his worldview. And guess what, motherfucker? It was pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. to love what you do every goddamn day. And there is nobody getting in your way of that but you. First, you got to figure out whatever it is you really fucking like to do. Then you got to find a way to do it. And then just keep doing it. And who gives a shit if anybody's watching? And who gives a shit if anybody else cares? If it's what makes you happy, then just keep doing it. And the other thing that I have really, truly realized is my focus on the consciousness for the past 2, 3, 4 years, however long I have been vibrating at this frequency. It has allowed me to become a conscious observer of my own consciousness. What the hell are you talking about, Mugsy? So, like we've said, we have somewhere between 5,000 to 7,000 thoughts a day. It's impossible to remember all of them, right? You'll notice if you have a routine that as you go about your daily routine, you have the same thoughts over and over when you reach certain points in that routine. When you pull up to your office, before you get out of your car, before you walk in that door, before you sit down for the day, you grab your cup of coffee, or you say hello to a friend, or you open your email. The same thoughts are pervasive over and over again. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same things over and over again and expecting a different result. Now, when you start focusing on your consciousness, and you start observing your thoughts, then you can choose the thoughts you want to think about. When someone is an asshole to you in your day, for whatever reason, somebody honks the car at you, somebody makes a snide remark at the office, or somebody belittles you in school, you feel that in an emotional response. That is a message to your brain saying, I don't like what's going on right now. And then you have a choice to control how you react. That's the simplicity of it. But you cannot do that until you've learned how to control your emotions. Observe your consciousness. When someone makes that snide remark, you feel it, right? Feel it. Say, wow, that was interesting. And you let it go. And you move on with your fucking day. How can you test this? How can you test this in your everyday life? Let's practice. All right. Everybody out there's got a goddamn smartphone, and I hate it. I am looking for ways to get rid of it actively. I was in fucking Best Buy last week, and I'm looking at pay-as-you-go phones, which is not going to be much fucking cheaper, but it's not going to have any internet. It's not going to have any GPS. There is no way to get in contact with me unless you call my cell phone. Because I'm not responding to text messages using T9 from 2002. All right? Pick up the phone and call me. And it's just such an attractive lifestyle to me for whatever reason at this stage in my life. Because I really don't need all the bullshit. Because I understand that these are all distractions. Now, how can you practice? That's what I was getting back to. Don't let me digress for too long here, guys. Oh my God, this tea is so nice. Now, how can you practice this at home? You have some sort of notifications on your cell phone. No matter what, you're going to be thinking about something before that cell phone vibrates, rings, buzzes, dings, whatever fucking notification you get, there's a way that it comes in. Try and remember what you were thinking about right before that notification came in. Give it your best shot. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Get really fucking good at that. Get really good at remembering what you were thinking about the moment before that ding came into your life. Because that is Your fucking consciousness. And that's Mark Zuckerberg, and that's Jeff Bezos, and that's Tinder and Bumble and the New York Times throwing you off your fucking game. Saying there was just a bomb dropped in Israel. Does that have anything to do with what you're doing? Well, start thinking about that right now. That's the most important thing for you to be thinking about. Or the stock market just went up 3 points. Or somebody just swiped right on your fucking photo. These are all distractions that keep you from recognizing that you don't really fucking like your job, or you don't really fucking like that sandwich that you're eating, and it makes you feel like shit after. You haven't noticed that because you've been getting likes on Facebook and you've been feeding off that fucking dopamine hit that you get every time you're out there or you get a message. You feel important. Well, fuck you. You're not important. You're not important until you've spent a lot of time talking to yourself and understanding why your perspective is fucking interesting in this world. And if you think you want to be a fucking influencer, or you think you want to fucking explain something to someone before you even understand how you fit into this whole existence, this whole fucking plane of space and time, then you're an arrogant fucking prick. Because I don't know a lot of things. But I know I spent more than a fucking decade being silent and listening and observing and watching this fucking world burn. And then eventually I said, fuck this shit. I'm better than this. I'm more powerful than this. My consciousness can create a reality that has nothing to do with all of this bullshit. I knew it was possible the whole time. I've watched other people do it. Now I have to do it so that I can show everybody else in the world that they are living their own nightmares that only exist in their own head. You can be whatever the fuck you want to be in this world, and don't let anybody tell you you cannot. And if you think there's a goddamn impediment in your fucking way, you call me. And we'll move that fucking mountain. It may take us a while. But the only reason miracles don't happen anymore is because you don't believe they can. And they look like miracles to everyone else, except for the people doing them. Because to them, that's just natural. That's just everyday being. That is just my fucking existence on this life. Why don't you do the same? Why don't you create some fucking miracles? Well, step one is taking back your consciousness. I'm telling you. I was listening to Bert the fucking Conqueror and Tom Segura on a podcast the other day. It was great because those guys are honest, man, and I love them. They're so funny. I cannot wait until I get to fucking have a conversation with them because our paths are now set to cross. They are, but I digress. What they said was they're not good podcasters, and they were talking about buddy podcasts versus solo podcasts, and there's an art to both. There is an art to both of them. But they also said they're horrible fucking podcasters, and that's correct. Because it's correct and it's not. But they're fucking winging it. They don't know what they're doing. They're trying to make you laugh. They're comedians. So they're great at what they do. They are great at what they do because they understand a podcast is honesty, and all they're doing is trying to be honest. But when they say they're bad podcasters, they don't know that they're teaching you something. The same way that Bert taught me about relationships. It's why my wife is no longer self-conscious that she thinks I'm going to cheat on her. Because what Bert said on a podcast a long time ago, honestly, and I believed him, was he had a conversation with himself about cheating on women. Is that the kind of man you want to be? The type of man that cheats on his girlfriend or his wife? And Bert decided with himself that he wasn't going to be that kind of guy. And that was a moment of true honesty. And me in my 20s, I struggled with that when he said it. But then I spent the next, I don't know, 5 years thinking about it and observing all of the relationships of all of the people, not only in my life, but in the public eye, whether they were successful, whether those people seemed truly happy. And I made a decision, just like Bert did, that I'm not going to cheat on my wife. So I don't. Right now, I have 42 followers on Twitter. Could be 42 million tomorrow. Nothing's going to change about that. I looked in my wife's eye and I told her that. Now she believes me. Now our life is better together because she believes me. All right. So you are a great podcaster, Bert. You are a great podcaster, Tom. And you're not because you don't put in the forethought necessary to guide the conversation exactly where you want to take it. The same way that you do with your stand-up comedy. The same way that you take hours and hours to craft that set. You don't do it with your podcast. That doesn't mean it's not great. But I think that is what you're getting at. All right. And I have a feeling I might not be there yet, but I'm going to be pretty fucking good at this shit. And how do I fucking know that? Well, me and my wife were walking around that lake I was telling you about that we went to for the eclipse. And there's 3 young, attractive women walking behind us within, earshot, close enough where we can obviously overhear everything they're saying. They can obviously overhear everything we're saying. I'm at the point where I really want to comment on some of the stuff they're talking about because they're young, attractive women and they're talking about relationships and men. And I said to my wife, I said, should I say something to her? Should I say something to him? She's like, no, don't say anything. And then they start talking about tarot cards and their tarot readings and the men in their life and how the men are acting. And I just couldn't. So eventually I had to turn around and say something. But I understand my energy and I understand my presence. I was trying to enter the conversation, although I was not invited, from a place of love and empathy and trying to help them understand the thoughts they were currently wrestling with. So as I, a 34-year-old male approaching 3 attractive young 20-something females out in the woods, I turned around with my hands up and I said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry. I I didn't mean to listen to your conversation, but I kind of overheard everything you were saying." And this is kind of what I do is I explain this shit to people and they were very receptive. Part of that was because of my body language and the energy I brought to starting the conversation. And I said to them, life and the universe is all about energy, frequency, and vibration. And part of understanding energy is understanding masculine energy and understanding feminine energy. Now, feminine energy is creator energy because it has the power to create life. It can create any type of energy that it seeks. That's why when women step into the business world, they are very successful. I have never argued against that. Some female entrepreneurs are the best entrepreneurs because they have the ability to channel the masculine energy and block everything out if that's what they want to become. Now, in terms of dating, in the absence of masculine energy, a female may utilize her feminine energy to create the masculine energy necessary for a relationship to be successful. But it prevents the female from being able to express her true identity and self when she has to be something to allow the relationship to be successful. She can't be whatever comes naturally to her, which is usually expressed as more traditional feminine energy, motherly type creator. Okay. And so, it was great. I was super surprised. So was my wife, to be honest. But it was just a great interaction. They were kind of thankful. And I said, hey, Mugsy the creator, if you got any more questions, if you want to understand this shit, this is what we talk about. This is what we do. And then today, I was on Twitter and I was having a conversation, commenting on something that had to do with the financial markets. And Daniel Hennessy Jr., who works for Zaner FS. He's a senior market strategist with Zaner FS, trading commodity futures and options, involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. He's in the financial services industry out of Chicago, Illinois. He seems like a good dude who's really open-minded, but it would appear to me that he is struggling trying to form new neural pathways in his brain. And he's challenging himself with important questions. And he asked me, do the ends ever justify the means? And he complimented my, conversation, my Socratic thought, whatever. And I said to him, you're challenging yourself with these important questions for a reason. Your brain is working on forming new neural pathways. Do the ends ever justify the means? Of course not. If you seek to do good, how could doing bad for long enough create good? Life is all about energy. Give positive energy and receive positive energy. What is positive? Whatever feels good to your soul. I would not surround my consciousness with these dark teachings. Oh, sorry. Machiavellianism is a part of the dark triad. Machiavellianism is the ends justify the means. That's Machiavellianism. It is a part of the dark triad, along with narcissism and psychopathy. I would not surround my consciousness with these dark teachings, especially when self-actualization is part of your momentum. In terms of time, I don't understand what you mean. There is only one time now. Past and future are entangled in this moment. Illusions of the mind, E equals MC squared. Most people want to be happy. They just have never met a happy person. When you find one of those people, ask them how they got there. If they share, they are truly happy. If they don't, they are acting. If you have time, I have a podcast. And I said to him, all of the answers to all of the questions are already within you. Just tap into the collective and take back your consciousness. That's what this is all about. But that guy is a fucking futures option trader. We had a little dialogue back and forth, and he was talking about self-actualization. And I explained to him that money is not real. Just like we always talk about, money is not real. And he said, well, it's real with all the things that I bought and this, that, and the other. I said, no, it's not. I said, no, it's not. If you were a student of history, you would understand the creation of money was meant to be a placeholder for energy. And it no longer is. And if you want to understand that, you should go and study the Federal Reserve and its history, its creation back in the Federal Reserve Act of 1912, which created the Federal Reserve in January of 1913. Now, that act was passed in the dark of night And this is in the early 1900s. There's no cell phones, okay? And it was passed on Christmas Eve. So who's in the White House passing this motherfucking act on Christmas Eve? Nobody. So they pulled the rug over on the American people way back in 1912 on Christmas, no less. And if you understood that, you would understand why the deviation from the gold standard in 1970 was the complete separation of energy and money. And it's simple. And he seems like a good kid. And I told him this is what we talk about. So I hope he fucking gives it a listen. Because this episode's for you, buddy. And you might tell your kids about this one day. How your whole life was headed in this one fucking direction. And then one day, this fucking kid out of nowhere, a nut job, a crazy person that calls himself Mugsy the Creator, explained to me that money isn't real. And there's only one time. That time is fucking now. And this is the only time that I have to start getting to know myself. And only then can I have any hope at this feeling that is fleeting that we call fucking happiness. Okay? But it will lead you on a path of fulfillment. And that's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. I had a really interesting conversation with another podcaster, scientist, geologist, actually. And he explained DNA to me. That's a conversation that I really want to have, but I want to dig into the subject matter a little more so I can explain it to you in terms that you can understand, that will make sense to you so that you can incorporate it into your life, incorporate it into your consciousness, so that when you're choosing to think about things all day, you're thinking about things that are going to make your fucking life better. And I believe that understanding DNA is really going to help you do that. So I'm going to spend some time working on that. We have a conversation tomorrow with the dingo from down under. My buddy, the dingo, is going to join the podcast for a conversation. I met the dingo when I was studying abroad through Bentley University, studying at the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology and working at the National Australia Bank. He was my RA at the apartment dormitory that we lived in, downtown Melbourne. And he's been bouncing around the globe. Spent a little time in Canada, spent a little time in the UK. Now he's changing roles for a new job down in Australia. And he is going to give us a little insight into the podcast. And we got another buddy coming on to tell us about his trip to India. And I am so fucking excited to start having these conversations. I told you guys, if we water this fucking plant, it will grow. And I'm going to keep watering it all spring. And eventually somebody's going to take notice. And eventually you guys are going to start taking back your fucking consciousness and you're going to start telling the world about this. So I love you. Don't forget to take it back. Have a good fucking day. It's a beautiful day out there. Go enjoy it. I love you. I'm out.